And we are live. You are tuned in and watching the Detective Diaries. I am your host, Greg Lawson, and this is where I interview strange and interesting people I find along my paranormal journey. So today, we're going to get through some really cool stuff, I think. It's going to be very conceptual and it's going to be fun. Last week, or let's see, 2 days ago, we spoke with Gypsy Jules with Zero Discrimination Metal Detecting. And she's one of the persons that I bring in whenever I'm doing a paranormal investigation to try to corroborate the story by collecting evidence, and bringing in someone who is a specialist in metal detecting often really helps support an investigation. Next week, we're going to have Andrea Perrin come on, and she's if anybody have ever watched the movie The Conjuring and House of Light, House of Dark book, Andrea Perrin is all about all of that. So it's going to be really fun to bring her on and talk to her. Today, we're bringing on psychic medium Tim Shaw. Tim and I think we met about 6 years ago or so at the Michigan Paracon, and we just kind of run into each other from time to time, and we always want to do something together, but for some reason, being so far apart, we haven't been able to do it. So we're going to do it right now. Welcome, Tim, on the show. Tim, what's up?
Hey, thank you, Greg. Listen, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really, you know what, I do a lot of shows and stuff, but there's only a handful that I really wanted to do. And I am so thrilled that we're able to go and we're finally able to do something together, because I've wanted to work with you for, I don't know how long, but at those big cons, I mean, you're at your table, I'm at my table. We pass literally going to the bathroom, going to the men's room. And it's like, then all of a sudden we disappear. And so thank you so much for inviting me on.
I think I've seen you at the bar a couple of times, but other than that, I don't know.
I was just trying to get a revival going. I was just trying to get some people to go and I wanted to show them the evils of alcohol. I wanted to show them personally.
I noticed you would just kind of go right by. And speaking of the evils of alcohol, tonight I'm going to be drinking a Shiner Bock while we discuss these important things. And what drink are you going to be having tonight?
Oh, I've been working outside since morning, so I am going to be refreshing myself with some H2O right now. Although later on, I will tell you that when I'm packing, as a matter of fact, I'm going through my gear because I got an investigation this weekend we're going on, nice. And so I will probably, one of my favorite drinks and of all time, from my most favorite place of all time, Tattered Flagged. It's a distillery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
And I buy it right from there when I go down there when I'm working, or whenever when we don't have all this stuff, this mayhem going on right now. I try to get down there about 3-4 times a year because I'm a huge history nerd, and I've had relatives actually that fought and died on the field. So it's really kind of personal to me. But I'll probably have one or two shorties just to go and just to keep everything oiled up.
Right. That's a good plan. The funny thing is Tim, I don't know if you know this, but I'm known as the Paranormal Detective.
Gee, I've heard that someplace before. I've heard it. I think as a matter of fact, I was in Sault Ste. Marie in the men's room on the first floor, and I swear to God, it was written on stall number 4.
I don't doubt it. And the funny thing about that is the Paranormal Detective has never been to Gettysburg.
Really? Oh, seriously, Greg. Seriously, if you ever want to go, and I can arrange it, and we can go. I've been going down there since I've been about 9 years old. As a matter of fact, as you can see, like behind me, those are parts of my collection. I have a pretty extensive Civil War collection, and I even have my great-great-grandfather's belt buckle, which has a Confederate bullet that's embedded in it. That he had the company roll stuck in his belt, and it was a spent ball, which means it lost its velocity, and it slammed into it, hit the brass of the belt buckle, which is lead lined, and it swear to God, it had to knock him off his feet. But
Man.
that would have been what they call a belly shot, an intestinal shot. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't be sitting here because the whole line would have stopped right there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean that to have that piece in my collection is just, I can't say enough about it.
Right. Hey, so was your grandfather the only one that was in the Civil War, or do you know if you had multiple?
Well, first of all, I've traced him. His brother was killed in the wheat field at Gettysburg, and they could never recover the body because caissons were going back and forth, and they ground the bodies pretty much into the ground and busted them up. And I found a letter stating that he had gone out on the night of the 2nd with a lantern looking for him, and he couldn't find him. So he's in probably one of the unmarked graves there. And as a matter of fact, his future father-in-law, my great-great-grandfather was the 105th Pennsylvania Volunteers. His future father-in-law was in the 63rd Pennsylvania. They were sister units. They both got wounded at the Battle of the Wilderness the next year in 1864.
Oh, wow.
They ended up in Armory Square Hospital. So, I mean, it was like an amazing synchronicity was just so amazing with that. Yeah. And I have all their military records that I got from the National Archives, and really
that's very cool. I've looked quite a bit into my own family's history. It's pretty neat. For the people that are tuning in, you're watching the Detective Diaries, and I'm here talking with Tim Shaw. If you guys could go down into the comments and write something in the comments, like maybe where you're from, what you're doing. Christine.
Oh, Christine, how are you? Oh my God. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
My heart. Be
That's
still
right.
My heart. Christine, how are you on the other side of the world?
She's awesome.
Yeah, she is.
Thanks for tuning in, Christine. And if you guys can like and share this broadcast, it would help me out greatly. So I want to get into some of your stuff here, man. I did not. I mean, I knew you were a cool guy, but I didn't know that you were involved in so many things with the Learning Channel, History Channel, Spike, Discovery, Sci-Fi, all of these. And yeah. I'm amazed at some of the stuff you've been able to do. Paranormal Lockdown is one of the ones that I kind of like the way that they do that. But
yeah, that was really great. First of all, I mean, that was the episode that they filmed was up at the Hinsdale House, which I've been researching since I was a kid. I mean, I'm talking, I was maybe 17 years old, and back in the 70s when it was all going on, I used to clip all the clippings out of the newspapers, and I still have a lot of the clippings in my scrapbooks. And I had gone up there in I believe it was 2011, and that's where it was abandoned and people had kicked in the door, and we got permission to be there. And it was like it was just amazing. It was just amazing. It was like the house was waiting for us. But the biggest culmination, Greg, this blew my mind. Now, as someone who took training in Lilydale, and I've had relatives in the spiritualist community since 1880 through the Golden Age, I might have seen spirit. I'm talking a full-blown, right on, eye-to-eye spirit thing 4 times, maybe. I'm standing on the stairs. I look down. Greg, there's a little girl, and I won't say little. She was probably like 16 years old. And there was a folding, like a tri-fold door, and she's hanging on there. And she's like this, and she's smiling at me. She had long hair and a real round face, and her hair looked like it was like it was sun bleached. And I always remember she had a pink flowered or polka dot shirt, with white and pink. She had bell bottoms, and I remember seeing distinctly canvas sneakers. And she's just there, smiling. And I'm thinking, oh, it's probably one of the local kids, they probably saw that there was some cars in the parking lot. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, they're on a dare. So I'm standing there, and first thing I do is I smile back at her. She smiles back at me, and I'm looking down these stairs, and I blink my eyes. She's still there, Craig. She's still there. So I know that. Okay, you're there, and
Right.
I'm over there with one of my buddies. And what we were doing, and I'll come right out and tell you why we were there. They were going to bulldoze the house, and I have this thing, again, being a history nerd, I have this thing about mythology being wiped away. And this is part of like Western New York's like modern mythology, this fantastic ghost story. And I had interviewed the people that lived there and all these witnesses. So I'm standing on the stairs, and she's still there. And my buddy made a noise, and we were up, and like he was in the master bedroom, and I just went like that, and I looked down, she's gone. I'm thinking, wait a minute. Now I get down to the bottom of the stairs. To the left of me is the back door, and it's nailed shut. She didn't go that way. So she had to go out the front door. So I get out the front door, and I'm telling you, and I tell everybody this story, old, bald, fat men should not be running down dirt roads. They shouldn't be doing it. It must have been a sight to behold. I'm just glad that nobody ever caught it, because it would be on, America's bloopers or whatever. And she was nowhere. I checked the culverts. I checked the field across the way.
And was that at the Hinsdale House?
This is at Hinsdale. And this is like late November, early December. There's no leaves on the trees. So I would have seen if she had gone up the back hillock. I would have seen if she had gone further. There's no way she could have got away from me. So I emailed Clara Miller, and who was there during the peak of the haunting. And I described the girl to her, an emailer, and she doesn't write back. And the one thing I know, and you know the same thing being in law enforcement, that victims get that post-traumatic stress. They got to watch that. So she didn't write back for about 2 weeks. And I thought, oh, I hope I didn't offend her. She wrote back. She goes, you gave me a start. She goes, you described my daughter, Laura. Now, Laura later on, she had some problems. She had some, she was challenged a little bit emotionally. And later on, after they moved out, when they moved from the Hinsdale house, when they were forced out of the Hinsdale house, they moved to the West Coast. And years later, of course, Laura eventually took her own life, unfortunately. And
so you think that little girl was her spirit or something?
I asked Clara, her mom. I said, Clara, is it a possibility? And she says, oh, yeah, because she always said if anything ever happened to me, she wanted to go back to the house. She loved being at the house. And this was collaborated with 2 other witnesses that she just loved the house. So I believe that Laura is up there. I really do. I believe that she showed herself to me. She didn't, and she had like a real sweet smile. And I always remember the funniest thing in the world was Clara goes to me, well, next time you see her, tell her Ma says hello. I said,
Geez.
But so, the Hinsdale House is great.
It's interesting because I've worked a couple of cases, and I consulted with one particular paranormal investigation here in Austin. And what I did was I checked all the records. I checked the property records, tax appraisal,
which I have. Yeah, I have all that for the house. Yeah,
survey and all that stuff, and all the the 911 calls, stuff like that. And this house that they were investigating was only about 15 years old. And prior to that, it was a goat farm. Prior to that, it was owned by the Spanish. There's nothing there.
Right.
And I worked this thing, and I told the paranormal team that was working, I said, look, I've come up with nothing. I've come up with nothing. About a month or so later, I decided, you know what? I'm going to find out where that family moved to. Because there was a previous owner, and then the new owners, and the previous owners left. I was going to find out where they moved to. Well, the apparition that they were seeing in the house was that of a little girl, and a lot of giggling, and you could hear toys tinkering around and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Well, I look into this, and this family had moved to Houston for their daughter's cancer treatment. And
Oh,
she had lived there
oh,
about a year and a half and died of cancer.
oh,
So that
that's sad.
was a bridge to, you know, if what they were hearing,
Right.
what they were seeing was true, then that would make sense. It's just not some random little girl in the house,
Well, exactly. That's the one thing that I think I have a problem with a lot of paranormal investigators. They're looking, they don't look for those bridges. They don't look for the reason why. They are looking at, I'm getting X, Y, and Z.
And this
They're
is the
missing it.
Hinsdale House, right?
Correct. That's the Hinsdale House. And if you look off to the left, you can just barely see the pond that was there. And in the 1800s, when the McMahons owned the place, that used to be a barn.
Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff that goes on with around the pond.
Where's it actually located?
It's Hinsdale, New York, is in the southern tier of New York State. It's I would say probably a half hour, 40 minutes away from the northern Pennsylvania line.
Okay.
And what you're looking at right now, that's the living room, and that is where the property exorcism, the deliverance, took place, where Father Alphonsus Trabolt went and did a rite in that room to kind of calm things down. And it calmed it down for about 3-4 months, and then it just started to act up again.
Yeah, I know. I've seen a lot of places where people will bring in, some sort of a religious person to come in, cleanse the house, and that doesn't always work.
Well, let me tell you something. I've worked some cases, and I'm pretty. You know what? It's like I am not a spiritualist because I don't believe in a lot of the heavenly bodies and all that stuff. I believe in energy. I'm an energy guy. So I really believe that a lot of people, when they come in with their maybe well-meaning, but it's like poking the devil a little bit. And sometimes you can open a can of whoop ass on yourself when doing that. You've got to be so careful. And I mean, when I was younger, I was a teenager when I first went and did my first spirit rescue. That's what spiritualists call that. And I mean, it doesn't always work the first time, doesn't work the second time. Sometimes you have to go back time and time and time. I remember like 9 times we went to one location.
Wow.
And the problem is it's not just the ritual, which is nothing more than intent, but it's not just that, but it's the education of the people that live in the house. It's the education of that, because we believe that thoughts are things. Everything is frequency, everything's vibration. So guess what? If spirit is the essence of that personality, guess what? That's vibration and spirit. So what you're doing is you're thinking about it, and whoop, doors open, playtime. So what you can do is you can call the stuff back. And that's where that's where a lot of people run into problems. I used to work with an exorcist for the Western Catholic Church. And he always said to me, he goes, tell the people, tell your clients, when you're done, they're done. No more of this spooky stories of what was going on in the house. No, just leave it flat. Leave it flat. And then if it starts to amp up, then you deal with it. But leave it flat, because you don't want to bring this stuff back in. It's fresh. I'm energy. I'm not into the big door opening with the vortex and all that. But right. I will tell you, Greg, I've had people that were like, I went to Sodus, New York, which is like, oh God, about 5 hours away from here. Drove there, did my thing, coming back halfway, I get a call. All hell broke loose. Turned around, went back, did my thing, drive back. Now it's dawn. Phone. It's happening again. Drove back, did it again. And what was happening was, as soon as we left, the woman's calling up her girlfriend or whatever, and she's telling her what we did and what was going on. Boom. There you go. Like attracts like, it's coming in.
Yeah, stirring it all up again. For those of you who have just tuned in, you're listening to Detective Diaries. I'm here talking with Tim Shaw, and let's see. I have once again the winner of the furthest person away from the broadcast studio listening, which is Kat Ward in Australia. Kat,
Hey,
thank you so
Kat,
much.
how are you?
I can
Kat, it's
always count on
excellent to
her.
see you, man. It's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, she does some really cool stuff down there. One of these days, I'm going to make it down. Faye says hello.
Oh, Faye, I love Faye.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see who else is on here. Nadine.
Hey, Nadine.
What's up? Candace. What's going on, Candace? So yeah, we got quite a people. Hey, Kenna Hunter is on there. Hey, Kenna was one of my first guests on here with RIP files. So
Awesome.
yeah, I really appreciate you coming in. And those of you who are tuning in, if you like the page and share it, it's awesome. It's great. If you could tell us where you're from in the comments and ask Tim any questions you would like to ask about spiritualism, mediumship.
My favorite, what I like, my favorite pizza toppings, whatever. It's open. It's open, baby. It's open.
So you've written some books too.
A couple.
Yeah, the Ghosts of Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
So what got you on that? What made you decide, you're going to go ahead and put this thing on paper?
Well, first off, I started writing it, and I was just collecting like stories, and I was doing research, and somebody from Schiffer Books defaulted on writing a book about Buffalo. And a friend of mine, Marla Brooks, who has she's an author with Schiffer, asked me if I would be interested. And I said, sure, I would be. And it was so great. The only thing is I had to go and negotiate. They wanted me to do all the big hauntings in Buffalo and the area. And, here's the problem with that. There's other authors who have covered it. So they allowed me to do some of the smaller stuff, the really neat stuff that was, the history laden stuff that, that I found by accident. And it was a labor of love, and it was really great. And it's still like one of my favorite books that I've read. I think I got like six published, and 2 sitting here, and someday I'll send them in or something. Nice. You know what it's like, Greg. It's like, I write them. Here's my thing. I write them. When I write them, I think did you ever see the Christmas Story where Ralphie writes the greatest essay in the world? Well, that's me when I first finish them. Then I sit down and I let them settle for about a month, and then I pick them up and I look and I go, oh, these suck. These are so bad. And I put them down, and people like, I show them, let some people read them. They're going, oh, this is fantastic. No, it sucks. I can't. No. And that's what I do. It's one of those things that I'm my own worst critic when it comes to. Oh God, yeah, because you can always describe something better, than what you've done.
Who's not his worst critic and who's a great writer is Brad Blair.
Yes, he is.
Brad Blair chimed in here. He loves some Spanish goat farms. Apparently,
I don't want to know.
Yeah, that's Brad.
There are some things in this world that I don't want to know. I love Brad. Brad, and you know what, Greg? I gotta tell you.
I'm wearing Brad's shirt. Look,
I saw. I'm kind of jealous. I don't have one. I got to tell you a story about Brad and Tim. When I was sick, I had surgery like 2 weeks before one of the Paracons, and I was white. I was sick. I was nauseous all the time, and they treated me like with kid gloves. I asked them if I could take breaks and go back to the room, just lay down for 10 minutes. They never had a problem with it. My wife, a couple of years ago, she hurt her back. Oh my God, she was in such pain. They took care of me. I had 10 and a half hours it takes me to drive from the Sioux back home. And they were just so great. They were calling me up, making sure that I was safe. I was doing okay. They were just phenomenal people. And I can't say enough about Brad and Tim. And I always said one thing, if if everything ends tomorrow for me, like all my appearances and all the stuff that I do, I will have been a VIP once in my life, once, and that's because of Tim and Brad up at Sault Ste. Marie at the Michigan Paracon.
Michigan
Really,
Paracon,
really.
man, it's my favorite. Speaking of being sick, you look like you got to poop.
Oh, I got to poop. I got to poop. I've been working all day. No, you know what sucks is off the air. Greg and I were talking, and I moved into the house, into our new house now about 3 months ago. So I had back home. I had a whole studio. Well, I sold it. I got rid of everything except my mobile stuff, all my lights and stuff. Well, I've been outside digging a ditch. All of a sudden I looked what time it was. I was going, oh crap! I gotta get. I can't be messing around. So I didn't set up any lights. So I'm just using the overheads. I'm looking rather. I'm a whiter shade of pale right now. I actually do have a tan, believe it or not, but it does look like that. It's that time after I've eaten, a couple cans of spinach and some, and followed it up with a prune dessert now, fresh cream ale.
Well, Kathy Boohorn says that you made it all up because of that Hawaiian shirt you're wearing. So
this actually, my wife made this. My wife makes me my crazy shirts, and
really,
yeah, my wife makes them, and I have to give a shout out for my wife because I don't even know how many masks that she's made for people, and she's a seamstress, and as a matter of fact, this shirt is an older shirt. We celebrated, well, we're married 38 years, but when we were 20 or 25, we went to Vegas to get remarried, to renew our vows in Vegas. Did it right at the Elvis, chapel and the Graceland Chapel. And I got, if Elvis had lived and gotten fat, that's the Elvis that married us.
Beautiful.
And this is what I wore. So, I mean, it was great. I always love these shirts. And hey, listen, you're quite the snazzy dresser every time I see you. Listen, every year I have to have my wife make me a new shirt because I can't keep up with you, man.
Hey,
you've got to open up your closet and put sunglasses on and go, oh baby, I can't take this. I can't take this. I'm feeling that heat coming, baby. I feel the heat coming at me.
Hey, when you're, like we were talking about before, I'm at my table, you're at your table, I'm doing my talk, you're doing your talk, workshop, stuff like that. So I haven't been able to make it to any of your, your gallery readings or anything. At some of it, because I know you were doing some workshops for divination and some other stuff like that, right?
Right. I do all sorts of stuff. Yeah. The one thing that I learned, now again, I was first introduced into the Lilydale Assembly, which is a small spiritualist town, a little village in Western New York, back in the 1970s. So I've been doing this a long time. And the one thing I've learned is that you can't be a one-trick pony. You've got to be able to be open to everything. And my religion was very adamant about using any kind of like tarot cards or divination, anything like that, except for seance. And, me being me, I'm not a very good person to work within an organization. So I believe in spirituality, not religion, and organized religion. So I decided that I would step out of the box, which got me in a lot of trouble at the churches. But I stepped outside the box and I started to learn different things. And I got to be friends with a lot of people like Witch Doctor Atu, who we talk, he teaches me so much about hoodoo and voodoo. And my friend Luis down at the Botanica de Indio, who's Santeria, and so many of my friends are in the craft. I love that. So to be honest with you, I love everything. So I teach like scrying. I teach oh my God, I teach. My favorite is Ouija boards because I got I'm trying to remember, 60, I think I have 63 or 64 Ouija boards here. I collect like crazy, unusual, and haunted objects. I teach. I teach all sorts of stuff. Right. And the one thing, Greg, that I found that I have to do is if I want to get my message across, and still, again, I do work in churches and I belong to one. And if I want to go and I want to stay relevant and I want to be able to go and get my message out there, I've got to be a chameleon sometimes. I've got to be able to get out there and work. And before the show, Greg said, I'm going to introduce you as Reverend Tim Shaw. And that's a big thing that I've stopped. I've kind of dropped the Rev thing because, first of all, it's a lot of people get that Judeo-Christian thing about it, and people automatically, their butt cheeks like starting to tighten up when they hear it, So that, and the fact that I like being part of the people. And that was something. And I'll tell you, I got a story. Can I tell you a quick story?
This is yours. Yeah, man.
Okay. Let me tell you a quick story. When I was a kid, down in Lilydale Assembly, some of the people that have come to my galleries and stuff have heard this. When I was a kid, there's a hotel down in Lilydale. It's called the Maplewood, and it's got like an old Victorian wraparound porch. And back then, all the visiting and registered mediums there, which means they could work in the village. They'd be up there, and at that time you could smoke up there, so they'd be smoking pipes and cigars and rocking and shooting the bull. And we would be sitting there. We couldn't even sit on the stairs. We had to sit like on the dirt in the parking lot almost. And one day, I forget what they were talking about, but I always remember this one old dude, big old dude, man, big hair, walrus mustache. This has got to be back like, 73, 74. And he said to me, he goes, boy, he says, what you're learning here is to be an addition to your life, not to be your life, which means go out, get a job, and be part of the people. Be part of the people. And that always stuck with me because of the fact that, I always had this belief. I may not have like been outward with it, but I've always had this belief system. I've always worked, and the one thing that I always hated this when I would serve, churches, I would be chairperson or I'd be speaking. I never liked to stand on a stage, on a podium looking down. It's always hard for me to do that. And that's because of that. I feel that I should be down on the floor with the people because they're no better than me. And they can all do the same stuff that I do. Don't let anybody kid you, man. This is no gift. This is just ability. This is left over from when we were cavemen, Right. And I'm telling you, so it's like no big deal to me. And that's why I always feel that, you should always be part of, I don't know, just part of the congregates. You should be down there. You should be part of them. You should be on the same level as them. And right. That's, right. Even like at Sault Ste. Marie, when I'm up, we're up on the stage, and I understand why we do it.
Yes,
but it's still hard for me because I'm thinking to myself, I'm up here.
Right.
Listen, I don't even want to hear me speak. Why am I up here? I should be down there listening to all these people up here on the stage because they all have something to say. Me, not so much.
Well, I know the Michigan Paracon is coming up. It's coming up in August. I got my fingers crossed. I'm hoping we're gonna pull this thing off. It's gonna be great. It's my favorite go-to thing every year. For those of you who might have just tuned in, you're listening to the Detective Diaries. I'm your host, Greg Lawson. Today, we're talking with Tim Shaw. He is a psychic medium, a paranormal investigator, a international lecturer, and I think you're an international lecturer, aren't you?
I think I've been in Canada once. Listen, I've been in Matamoros, Mexico a couple times, but we don't want to go into that. Listen, it wasn't mine. And I didn't realize that I was out after curfew and, the stuff like that. No, I live 20, 25 minutes from the Canadian border. So up in, the Peace Bridge going to Niagara. So, I have a lot of friends I have a lot of great friends up in Canada who I love and adore. And our borders are shut down and it's killing me because it's summer, it's getting to be warm and, I get it, I miss seeing them. It's all right. It's okay talking to them and stuff, but right. Over the computer, but I miss being out there and, it's just so much fun, right. Running into these people.
I got your cool guy picture here. I pulled off.
Look at it. Hey, look at the color. Look at the color in my beard. Holy cow.
Where were you when this was taken?
That is at the Buffalo Central Terminal. And the Buffalo Central Terminal, the old train terminal here in Buffalo, New York. Okay. And as a matter of fact, I had just had surgery, and friends of mine who I did some favors for said, "Hey, listen, we got somebody coming down here and taking pictures. Do you want some headshots or you want something?" I said, "Yeah." But I was pale. I was white. My beard was white. So guess what I did? Hair, the dye for men. So I got the blonde in there. Oh my God. It was terrible. I looked like a mad monk with that. Are you kidding me? I'll stay with my gray now. It's
All right. Well, let's do this then. We'll
there
go.
We go. That's me.
Now you cover over the Reverend part, but the Black Cat Lounge. Talk to me about that.
Well, the Black Cat Lounge, we were on, that was an offshoot of our old CBS radio show. And we were a podcast, or actually we did live and I podcasted it for about 12 years. And then I stopped. I said, no, I personally didn't feel I was relevant anymore. And it had run its course. And now, like yourself, like we were talking off air, with the virus stuff going on and all this unrest and everything, I think that people need to hear what we're doing, even if it's an hour of insanity, just to break up the monotony, just to go and be a diversion and learn something. So I sat down one day and I said, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to resurrect the old Black Cat Lounge. It's going to be pretty raw. It's going to be bare bones. And I started doing it for Facebook Live, and it's starting to take on a life of its own. We've had so many people that have, that watch it. And we've covered everything from, again, I taught about Ouija boards and I showed all my antique collection of Ouija boards. I did a thing on scrying. No, I'm sorry. I did dowsing. I covered everything about all the different styles of dowsing, all the different tools, the witness chamber, pendulums, and that sort of thing. I did that. And again, you know what I usually, that's my little class money. I usually charge a couple bucks for people to come in. I don't really care. You know what? I'm retired. I got Social Security. Who cares? I make enough money, and I got a pension, but it's something that's fun. I got a chance to, and I have a rather unusual collection, along with like all my Civil War stuff behind me here. I have a collection of unusual and some haunted objects that people either give me or I trade for. I get different things from my collection. And I was, I'm able to go and show them to people because I thought to myself, why the hell do I have these? Why am I keeping them?
Right.
I have now at our old house, at our old home, I had them in 7-foot lockers and a bunch of totes. And once a year I would do a big exhibit, fill a room up with everything, and then put them all in the totes and everything, put them back underneath the stairs in the basement. And that sucked. It really sucked.
Right.
Why have it? So when we moved into this house, first of all, let me tell you something. I feel like I'm in a palace. I'm in a mansion here. There's two of us and it's a larger ranch. I got 2 display cabinets and I was able to put probably about half of my collection jammed into display cabinets. But it's so nice to be able to go and show people because I've got like roofing tiles from Bullskin Manor, which is at Loch Ness, which was Aleister Crowley's house. And it burned in 19. And it was also Jimmy Page's house. So I have that. I'm able to show that. I have, I was a friend of Raymond Buckland, the guy that brought organized witchcraft here to the U.S. I have things from him. And it's just, plus all the African, I've got boxes of African pieces here. I've got masks. That are still in boxes. And I mean, it's just,
you have a large collection of Ouija boards too. You had mentioned earlier.
Yeah. I think I got like 64. I've got 17, 18 antiques,
right.
Really nice ones that I love, but people like the thing said an F-bomb. I got to get out of my house.
Well, Rhonda, I've known Rhonda since we were like 10 or something. I don't know.
Hi, Rhonda.
Yeah. So she said she'd like to try Ouija board, but she expects that it would be scary.
It is greatly underwhelming. It's greatly underwhelming. I'll tell you.
Unless you're at Warwick Castle in the room where Aleister Crowley used a Ouija board and all that.
Well, stuff. Listen, that's a whole thing. That's a whole different thing we're talking about. Well, I mean, I started, I didn't use a Ouija board per se. I was taught as a kid, down in Lilydale. We used yes or no answers. So we had a shot glass or a wine glass, and we'd put our fingers on there and it would go yes or no. And on a polished table. That's how I first learned. And, you know, I expect to be F-bombed by my Ouija board. I just expect it. It's just one of those things. And it doesn't bother me. Here's the thing. What I try to teach everybody is in everything spiritual, you work within boundaries. You make the decisions of how you're going to work, when you're going to go and begin, when you're going to end, and why you're going to end. The other thing is you're in control all the time. You're the conduit that the vibratory words or whatever you want to call them are coming through. You're the conduit.
Right.
So if this thing is getting out of hand, hey, listen, step away or I'm shutting it down. That's being in control. The best one was, I swear to God, at least 2 out of 3 times when I use a Ouija board, Zozo comes through. Hi, who are you? Z-O-Z-O. It's like, come on. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Yeah, you're Zozo. Here's the bottom line. Spirits lie. They lie. And sometimes they're doing it like if you have a spirit that is well, you know, it no longer has a body, so it needs to like just absorb that fear, that anger, you know, a parasitical spirit.
Right.
It'll say stuff to scare you. I mean, this, you know, they're not stupid. They understand that. And they'll say stuff to scare you. So Zozo comes through. Guess what? What's the big thing? Zozo, everybody's afraid of. I go, don't give me that shit. Don't tell me that you're Zozo. I know, no. If I worked with an exorcist long enough to know that if there's anything that bad, you get it in the solar plexus. That's called the gift of discernment. All exorcists have it. So, no.
Yeah.
And people do that. We were doing a Tim Malley, and we're up at Hinsdale, as a matter of fact, and we were doing a charity event. So I had 6 ladies up there, and we're working with it, and I had brought one and I donated one of my boards up to Hinsdale. And so we're working with it. And all of a sudden it's like, I said, who are you? And it's like doing this and kind of dancing around. I said, come on, my name is Tim. Who are you? And it's dancing around. I said, who are you? And it went XOXO. And I said, you're not no love and kisses. Who the hell are you? And it went Zozo. I said, you're not Zozo. Well, in regular circumstances, I would have poked the devil big time. I would have just like, yeah, don't give me that stuff because I'm not a provoker, but I'm pretty stern. You know, I've been doing this long enough. I'm stern. I'm not going to put up with it. But there was 6 ladies up there, and I felt, and it was almost like you could feel all their butt cheeks like just tense, like, oh, you know. And I said, no, we'll just stop. We'll stop now. But yeah, you know, you got to. The best way, Rhonda, the best way that I can tell you to work with a Ouija board is to work with someone who knows how to work with a Ouija board, like a mentor. That's how I learned. Right. And because working with it, you know, with 2 amateurs, got to watch that because there's a lot of little traps, little pitfalls where, you know, it can go and it can try to sucker you in. It's like an Eddie Haskell thing.
Sure.
You know, oh, hi, Greg. Gee, Greg, you're looking awful great today. As a matter of fact, your hair is perfect. May I say that you must have lost weight? Yep. And what happens is that it'll eventually go and it tries to sucker you into stuff. And that's what it is. And you have to watch it because I'm trying to remember the last time, because there's a lot of like, I was just working not a cold case, but a 1930s case that it was a murder case, and it was a whole thing about with Ouija boards in it. But I think it was 2006 or 2004. I can't remember. But there was a 2 kids that were doing the Ouija board. The Ouija board said, "Go kill this other kid." The 2 of them got up there and did it.
Yeah.
You know, and they didn't kill him. He survived, but he was really badly injured. Here's the rule of thumb. Whenever it comes to, if you want to go for a reading or if a Ouija board or anything divination, this is the example I give. If your Uncle Joe dies, comes back and says, take out all your money, Greg. Greg, take out all your money. And here is a stock tip, Greg. Greg, this is a sure thing. And your Uncle Joe never worked a day in his life, lived over a liquor store in the east side of Buffalo, and, never had a penny to his name. Don't do it. Don't do it. That's why we have common sense. But
hey, Amanda, we got some questions coming in, and Amanda asked, have you ever had a medium experience that you couldn't stop or control and that scared you?
Never.
No, never?
Never. And the reason why is because so you believe, so you are. So what you do is even when I do trance mediumship, I have belief in whoever I'm working with in the other side, that they will bring me back. I have complete confidence in that. So I've never had a problem with that. The other thing is that I'm like, excuse the expression, a lot of other mediums and psychics say I duct tape my rear end together because I'm kind of stiff when it comes to these readings. But here's the thing, I'm focused. I don't just let everything flow over the top of me. Because you go to like some of these, you go with some psychics out there or mediums out there on investigations, they go, oh my God, I'm getting this, I'm getting that. And they're just overwhelmed. I'm not like that because of the fact the way I was trained. I'm looking for the strongest energy that I can find to work with, or I am looking for something specific. If, like, say, if we're working like Uncle Joe might be, they saw him someplace in a house. We're looking for Uncle Joe. That's who I'm looking for. So I get like myopic. I get very tunnel vision when it comes to it. And again, I don't allow myself to be overwhelmed. I don't. I'm one of those people that are just like, no. This is my sphere. I live in this atmosphere. This is my world. This is not your world anymore. So, I mean, again, and a lot of people think I'm kind of nasty and stuff when it comes to that with spirit, but I do it because it's the safest way that I know how to do it and the most focused way. So, no, have I been scared while I've been working in mediumship? Listen, I've had to change my underwear a couple times. We're working a seance, and I mean the table. I'm used to like table tipping and stuff where the table's dancing around, or you get like voices, or stuff like that. Right. But when something like gets tossed, like in front of you, I mean, I've had that happen. We actually had a recorder set up on a shelf, and we were doing a seance, and the thing went, phew! Wow. Yes. I just said we got to stop right now, and I have to go change. Because I am not going to lie to you, Greg. But I mean, it's more, I'll be honest with you, it's not the action, or the reason. It was the fact that it was sudden movement. It was like that Funhouse thing where like, oh, right. And scared. I get surprised pretty quick. I jump.
So those of you that are watching, if you could go down and like the broadcast and share it would be great. And also, we got about how much more we got like 12 more minutes for you guys to ask Tim Shaw any questions you wish to ask.
Time goes by. Greg, this is great because I am so honored. I'm telling you, I am so damn honored that you asked me to be on the show. I am thrilled. I am just, I'm telling you, I was out digging a ditch today, and this is like what got me through in the ditch. This is so great. I am just like, so finally we actually are interacting on like almost human level. Almost.
Yeah. It's a little bizarre. That's one of those things that I have told people is I've been doing this a long time because my brother tortured me when I was a kid and took me to graveyards when I was like 5 and 6 years old.
That'll do it.
And, got into the whole urban exploration and just doing ghost thing. I didn't know that's what we were doing. Yeah. And the thing that I've noticed is we've had there's a lot of TV shows out there. There's a lot of movies or a lot of that stuff. And as a scientific materialist and as a hardcore investigator, I've been doing it for 30 years. Evidence is very important.
Exactly. And I agree.
It seems to me that people are overemphasizing the physical evidence of things on TV and
Yeah.
just the weird stuff instead of, I think we're already equipped with it. And you actually kicked on it, or you mentioned that earlier about when we were cave people. Maybe we're already equipped to pick up this stuff, and we're just told by our parents when we're very young, there's no such thing as monsters. There's no such thing as ghosts. And that just works into our brain and turns that part off.
You gotta remember something. Now, I took training with Tom Brown Jr. He's a survivalist, a tracker, and he's, as far as I'm concerned, an American mystic. He's worked with Native American, and I took an unbelievable class with him at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. And he said to us when we were in that hunter-gatherer stage, we needed another sense in order to go and project ourselves forward to see where, like, water was, where warring tribes, competing tribes were, where the game were, where there was shelter. You needed that. And as society became agricultural and built walls, you no longer needed that. And the only people that kept up on it were the shamans and holy men and priests and that sort of thing. Well, we all have it. And it's like, those of you guys out there I always say it's just like riding a bike. First of all, it's not pretty to see me ride a bike, but I can get on a bike and I can almost keep my balance. But it's muscle memory. That's all it is muscle memory. So what you have to do is just have to tap into it. You have to work with it. You have to have patience. You got to focus in on it, have a little discipline, and just allow it to happen. And it does. And we all have it. And that's why it drives me insane when somebody comes up to me and goes, I envy the gift that you have. It's not a gift. It's an ability. Everybody's got it. You know what? It's like putting my shoes on in the morning. You know, that's what it is to me.
You know, Nadine mentioned that you've helped her, and she's learning to trust herself more. And I think I think that's huge. You know, I've been to a lot of places. People ask me, "Is it scary?" I'm like, I've been scared at a couple of places, but it's usually a whole lot of nothing, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I'll tell you what, I don't like working in the dark. I'll tell you why, because first of all, the reason why I don't like working in the dark is because early, there was the golden age of spiritualism. There's the golden age of fraud, and stuff happened in the dark. That's why we have red and green light seances. So you always can see in the darkness. It's not just on ambient darkness. You can actually see, and that's very important. The other thing is I was supposed to have this cataract. That's when my eye is like kind of drooped. I was supposed to have this eye done before this thing happened, and it's a little blurry. So what happens is in total darkness, I'm like this. I'm looking out of one eye. I stumble into everything, and it drives me insane. So, it's scary, but it's more of like what's in here. How many times have you been in a situation? You're by yourself. You're in this bona fide haunted place. You're sitting in there, and every horror movie in the world goes letterboxes right across in your brain.
Right.
We all do it. And what you have to do is you have to overcome it, and you have to just focus in on what you're doing and get through it. So I don't like darkness, but I jump. And I won't say darkness scares me, but I will say that I don't feel comfortable in it enough because of the way my eye is now.
Well, so I know for me, the places that I've been, it hasn't necessarily been physical evidence that changed me.
Yeah.
Or whatever happened. It's more of a metaphysical thing. Right. And that's why I find it interesting that we use physical means like meters and detectors and things like that to find paranormal, because these physical things are normal, but we're looking for paranormal.
Right. But everything isn't paranormal. Everything's just normal. Science just hasn't quite kept up to it. That was the big thing when I was growing up. It's like nothing is supernatural. Everything is natural. We're just a little ahead of the curve. And when I started researching really in-depth spiritualist history, when they were doing it, there was no such thing as radio waves, TV waves, none of this holographic stuff, nothing like that.
Right.
So it's just a little bit ahead of the curve. And that's what I think it is. And the one thing that I got to tell you is that spirit seems to be able to manipulate frequency and electricity easier, and
Right.
my mother, after my dad passed away, she had a dream and she told me about it. And she said that my dad was writing her a letter and said that he's learning how to manipulate electricity because that's the first thing that they can do it. And I got to tell you something. So my mom had a stroke. She's down with her sister being taken care of. I'm in her house and the damn telephone rings. So I pick it up and it's a dial tone. So I star 69 to reverse it. There's no call. There was no call that day. So I mean, could have been my dad. I can't prove it, but I think it was.
Right.
Learning how to manipulate it.
Right. So, man, can you believe it is? We've been at this for 56 minutes now. We're coming up on the top of the hour. Tell everybody where they can find you and what kind of projects and stuff you have coming up.
Well, you guys can find me on Facebook, Tim Shaw, Timothy T. Shaw. You guys just hang out, or Tim Shaw. You can just look for me. You can see this beautiful face on there. My website is timothytshaw.com. You can go and check that out, where I'm doing and where I'm hanging. This weekend, we're doing something for Paranormal Warehouse and bringing awareness to the old Wildwood Sanitarium, which is a beautiful old Victorian house and needs a new roof. So we're going to be investigating there Saturday. We're doing social distance investigations. We're going to take our time. We're going to go in one at a time, and we're going to spend 45, 50 minutes in there by ourselves and just experiment with whatever we want to work with. Then in a week or so, I don't know when it's going to be on. I'll be honest with you. I filmed just before the world became a zombie land. I filmed for Portals to Hell with Jack Osborne and my friend Kat Weidman, and we were in Arizona, Flagstaff, Arizona, at the Hotel Monte Vista. So I'm not sure even if they got it edited, but I did that, and I'm starting a new little series that I'm going to be showing. It's called Curiosity. I used to have a little video show called Curiosity on the Road. We're going to do it again. I'm going to offer it on Lockport Community TV, which is where I volunteer and I do a lot of not-for-profit work there. And I'm going to put it on my YouTube and Facebook, and you guys can see me here on Monday nights at 8:00. Where else? At the Black Cat Lounge, where the elite meet, next to the dumpster transfer station.
Hey, man, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and talking with me. It went by really fast.
It did. But you know what? Again, Greg, I mean, you're one of those people that, you're instantly you're the real person. You're the real deal. I have a lot of respect for what you do. I really do. And there's a lot of people out there that are just, they're fluff. But you actually get your hands dirty. You get out there, you do the work, you understand that you're testing the waters, you're pushing the limits. And that is what we should be doing, because we should all be truth seekers. It's okay to get an EVP, but why? What's going on with this? And I love when you said, hey, I get all this paperwork and stuff. Do it, because the backstory is far more important than the evidence that's going on right now. Because 9 out of 10 times, it as an investigator, the backstory will tell you, or at least give you the signpost where to go. So you know what? This is like a huge honor for me to be on your show. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you coming on. And ladies and gentlemen, say goodbye to Tim. Thank you, Tim. And I will be talking to you soon, I think.
Take care. Thank you. God bless everybody. Love you guys.
So that was Tim Shaw. And if you've ever been to any paranormal conference or anything like that, and you see him, he's booked as a speaker, you need to go. He's got some really cool stuff, especially in his gallery readings and in his workshops. Fantastic. I have a lot of people. It builds a lot of confidence in a lot of folks that are interested in this sort of thing. So that's the end of this show. Next week, let's see, Tuesday of next week, we're going to have Andrea Perrin of if you know the movie The Conjuring, She was a little girl in The Conjuring, not the actress, the real deal. So Andrea Perron's going to be on next week, and we're going to be able to talk about psychic mediumship. We're going to talk about UFOs and aliens and the house that she grew up in. It's going to be a lot of fun. So until then, until our next The Detective Diaries, this is Greg Lawson saying thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope to see you guys at a Paracon someplace in the next 10 years, hopefully. See you later. And